A pattern of behavior. I think that's the key thing to understand when we're talking about Diddy and the man who knows more about that than anything and has taught me a lot about it. Robin Dreek, retired FBI special agent, chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. Here we go. 120 new allegations coming at the way of Diddy. 25 from accusers that were minors at the time of the alleged incidents. The rest adults. Charges stemming from sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice, assault, rape, you name it. If it's something bad that he could have done between 91 and now, one of these 120 have a story about it. Yeah, 120 people. Let's talk about that and the pattern of behavior.
Tony, I've never said it before on your show, but I'm afraid we're going to have to say it now. And it's a sad thing that we are. I told you so.
No, completely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We said from the very get go that there's going to be kids.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, tragically, there are. And I think that number is going to continue to grow. The shocking thing to me, well, not shocking, it's the ludicrous thing to me. That's a better word. Ludicrous
Luda.
is that the defense attorney says he's going to be completely exonerated.
I know.
Everyone's lying.
That's always the entertaining thing to me. I get, they're defense attorneys. They're going to do their job. That's what they have to do. They have to say, oh, we don't, but all of this is just that. But at some point, what point are you going home at night and going, yeah, I believe the shit I just said?
It's not just a sinking ship. This thing's on the bottom already.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to figure out. I mean, can you imagine being a defense attorney saying, all right, I'm taking over the ship, not a sinking ship, a ship that's sunk.
Uh-huh.
While it's on the bottom and full of water, I'm going to try to plug these holes up and then figure out how I'm going to get the water out of the boat that's already on the bottom.
This is a lot like the very bad late 70s, early 80s movie Raise the Titanic, but Diddy is the
The imagery in
Titanic.
my head was exactly the same, Tony. I can't believe you and I are, we're on that kind of wavelength on that one. I was exactly thinking that exact movie. I hate laughing and chuckling about this because this guy has destroyed lives.
Oh my God.
And it's gonna keep growing. It's just gonna keep growing.
It is. Just the sheer volume of what's coming in. What's blowing my mind is logistically, how do you even address all of these cases?
Yeah.
How do you defend all these cases? How do you prosecute all of these cases? It'll go on forever. There is no end in sight to any of this. I don't even understand logistically how you can do it. It's almost like a class action suit, but it's not. These are all individual cases.
Yeah, that's again the imagery you and I are right on. I'm thinking, wow, this is like someone suing Verizon, and if you want to become part of the class action, you get 50 cents because there's so many people that are involved in this one. I don't know how you do this. I've done big investigations. I've been part of them. I've never been part of one this broad with this kind of scope. And here's what's it just really eats at me as an investigator is that this is one of the most important cases because of the lives that were destroyed, the restitution, and the justice that must be done. But look at the resources this is going to take up in finances of the court system, in manpower of the court system, of the investigators, because you have a finite number of investigators, you have a finite number of resources. For every one more investigator that's required to go do an interview, go do due diligence, go serve a subpoena, go serve a FISA if it's classified. All these things is one more person taken away from another case.
Yeah.
One more person taken away from a rape case, from a murder case, from some other case, all because this individual made a choice to take advantage of people.
And in such a broad scale, such a massive scale for decades. And you want justice for everybody. You want everybody who's been affected by this individually to be able to, now that they have him in custody, to be able to share their point, to talk about what happened to them, and to get some form of justice, whatever that is, whether it's monetary, whether it's just exposing him for this crime or that crime. But at some point, it's white noise because it's the same thing over and over and over. And at what point here, and we're just at the beginning, at some point, it's going to be one of these where, okay, throw these charges at him. Obviously, he's already been charged, but there's probably going to be more. once he's locked up, once everything's drained, there's still going to be a lot of people with cases and a lot of stories, but at some point, it's like there ain't nothing more you can do. You're not going to get justice per se, other than he's already locked away. But because of the force of all of these people, he's never coming back. But that then kind of negates the individual trauma that he caused to so many people because there's just too much of it.
This is an interesting yeah, case to think about because I think there's such a volume of people. Many years ago, Gavin DeBecker talks about it, and John Douglas talks
Hmm.
about the formation of the first groups that were victim assistance programs.
Hmm.
And victim assistance programs for people that have survived trauma, they survived rape, they survived murder. Matter of fact, when the Pittsburgh office of the FBI conducted the interview of President Trump after the assassination attempt, that was conducted as a victim assistance interview because he was a victim of a violent crime. And so that resource is brought forward to him to offer counseling, to offer resources, to keep updates of cases. I really wonder in this case because it's the volume is so high if someone's not at least entertaining creating a victim assistance program just for the Diddy victims
Yeah,
because they're so numerous.
yeah. I mean, that's a serious thought because there are just so many. I mean, this this case here against Diddy, it feels like we are in new territory. We are beyond R. Kelly. We're beyond Epstein. We're like this is like a whole new ball. I mean, of wrong, and the amount of people involved. I think we're going to be shocked by once those names start to drop. But I mean, can you think of any case like this where there's been this many accusers just coming out of the woodwork, and a lot of them with very, very solid claims, and the man literally has made music about his crimes for the last 30 years, rapping about what he's been doing?
Yeah, no, I can't think of a case like it. And comparing it to like the Epstein case or any of the other notorious abusers of individuals and human beings, this one is different also because of the enticement he was offering. It wasn't just money. It wasn't just that party atmosphere. It was about influence. It was about power. It
Mhm,
was about getting them in an area where he was really able to appeal to people's insecurities, people's desire for fame, fortune, notoriety. Those are massive human motivations for all of us as Homo sapiens to varying degrees, depending on our own experiences, our own needs, wants, dreams, aspirations, priorities,
mhm.
traumas, all these things. I don't think there's ever been anyone with quite his ability to appeal to that lever of influence on people like him because he had all those things he could offer and he used it for his own gain with the assumption that it was going to be for theirs.
Let's talk about that for a moment because I've heard people criticize some of these individuals who have made allegations, and I'm not doing that. I'm not victim shaming or anything, but the question gets brought up. Okay, if he was doing these horrible things to you, which I believe he was, a lot of it's over time. Some of it's it's one here and this year, or a couple this year or this month, and it's spread out. Um, I know the answer to this. I know you know the answer to this, but I'd like you to explain it. The mindset that someone might be in behaviorally, as to why they would keep going back to that individual because of that money, because of that power, because of the control that he has gained over that individual, despite forcing them into traumatic situations. Why would they keep coming back? I guess is the
It's a slow
question.
leak. It's a slow. There's a lot of reasons because every individual is going to be a little bit different,
Yeah.
but there's going to be a slow leak of normalization
Mhm.
of really bad behavior. I mean, even when they're describing the parties he was holding and the freak offs or the potential freak offs, the acclaim,
Yeah.
he'd have the party with everyone just showing up and having a good time and having music and regular alcohol. But then he gave alerts like, "Hey, in an hour, it's time for the kids to go away because then we're going to escalate it up." And so what it was happening was when you have groupthink involved, you start normalizing really bad, abhorrent behavior becomes a normal thing. That's one aspect of it that people are being attracted to. So they're being groomed into I won't say a cult because it wasn't really a cult, but a cult like mentality
Mhm.
of wanting to belong to this group gradually over time. And the more that someone withholds it and makes it a little more harder to get into, a little more covetous, the more we want it. because that is part of our human motivations. We always seek what we can't have or and what others have because we suffer the cult of comparison and the desire for more. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that, like I said, you have that group mentality, you have that group think, and then you have most likely trauma bonding along the way. So you get love bombed early on, and hey, welcome to the tribe, welcome to the club. Here's these lavish gifts, here's a record deal, whatever it was he was using to love bomb you in. Well, now he's got a lever of influence over you that you feel gratified. Your dopamine's firing, your serotonin, endorphins, and dopamine, all the things are firing in the brain because we have all these things now that becomes normalized and we need more. But in order to get more, well, Diddy's going to want a little bit more in exchange for that kind of hit. Same thing that's going on with him in his life. He's getting normalized at that level.
Yeah.
He's normalizing it for everyone around him as well. So everyone's kind of rising together in this abhorrent behavior and not even necessarily realizing it because in order for them to realize it, they'd have to do one of the toughest things that we can do as a human being, and that is negate our own self opinion of ourselves.
Hmm.
And if all of a sudden we wake up one day and we say, "Ooh, I've been doing really wrong, bad things,"
Hmm.
that's a very tough day to have, and very few people can go through that day. And it's also very hard to recognize it because most of these people, as we said before, don't have loving critics
Yeah.
because most of the loving critics are in the same group mentality and groupthink that's going on. So that's one aspect of it. I think there's a lot of different ways in which people get roped into this.
I think it's important to understand too, and I don't know if I'm making up a term here, but I'm going to do it. Covert trauma, where it's our brain's way of not letting us know that we are in a traumatic situation right
Hmm.
now. So we're going to survive it. We're going to get through it. And we may even think this is a great thing at that moment in time until afterwards. And so you're like,
Hmm.
wait a second, what the hell? I mean, that's the way a lot of kids get through childhood abuse, whether it be physical or sexual. Uh, not not realizing or fully understanding the gravity of what's going on. It can certainly happen to adults too if you're slowly groomed into that place and you don't necessarily know the trauma is what it will be or is as it's happening. I'm thinking there's a lot of that that went on in the lives of these victims of Diddy.
Yeah, I agree. I like that word, covert trauma. And part of that, I think, is rationalization. A lot of times, all of us will say, "Hey, I'm a different person I am at work. And when I go home, I'm not at work. And so I kind of let my hair down and things are a little bit better." So if they saw themselves as, well, this is just when I'm doing Diddy work, they can rationalize it's just, and it's fine work because you know what? It must be okay because everyone's doing it over there. Remember, hey, if everyone's doing it, how wrong can it be?
Yeah.
Context is powerful with human beings
Yeah.
because when we have the context that it becomes normalized by an entire group and society of people, because really think about it, he had a society, the numbers of people that were followers of Diddy and that mentality of who he was and what was important to him, it was a huge number of people that people want to be part of. And so whether spoken or unspoken, there's also rankings.
Hmm.
People that were let inside the house, people that weren't let inside the house. So he treated everyone equal. He's mingling around with everyone, but only a certain number of people are allowed in the house. What do I have to do to be let in the house to rise in that inner circle?
Hmm.
That's where we start rationalize our behavior.
Yeah, I think you're very right in a lot of that. Well, I did this, or they're doing that. It can't be that bad, and until it's like, oh my god, look at what you all got involved in for this
And it must be
leader.
safe because everyone's in the same boat. No one's going to say anything.
Yeah. There's rumors right now floating that there's tape being shopped around that shows an A-list celebrity on it that he does not know. The word has been he that's been in the copy. That he was not aware of the taping going on at one of these parties, which could be very detrimental to one's career. Reputation wise, at the least, if there's something illegal going on, then we have a whole other thing going on. And there's also the rumors of a very large list of names of associates that's supposedly going to be dropping very soon. What do you think the attitude is amongst those that knew Diddy or were around Diddy right now? Just in anticipation of everything that's going to come out, what sort of preparations mentally and professionally do you think are going on behind the scenes with a lot of people right now as they prepare for the inevitable?
Well, one, there's a lot of fear. especially if you got like blackout drunk
Hmm.
or high. You have no idea what you did or didn't do or what you're photographed doing or not doing. So
Sure.
that's one thing. There's going to be a lot of fear. I think there's also going to be two approaches to this because as you're saying it again, I'm thinking, all right, how would Tony and Robin react if all of a sudden we got caught up in something like this and we're not quite sure what we were videotaped doing or not doing? I would be preparing, myself to how to own that behavior.
Hmm.
How I just because when the only way to restore trust once it's blown, because anyone that shows up on a list, trust with this individual and their personal brand is going to be blown.
Hmm.
The only way you can regain trust and brand is to own your behavior. Say, listen, I was a knucklehead. I was going through a tough time. There's no excuse for my behavior. I'm going to go through counseling. I'm going to be in rehab, all these things. Because every single time a person of notoriety owns their behavior, puts himself in rehab, goes through all these steps to be transparent and open, kind of, and we saw with the few celebrities in the last year. What's his face from Friends?
Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry did it to an extent, but then he fell off the wagon again because he had people in his life not being good for him. There's a lot of forgiveness there when people say, I'm imperfect, I'm
Yeah.
infallible. So that's one group. Then I think you're going to have a group of people that are not going to own their behavior. They're going to play the victim. Oh, he victimized. It's all Diddy's fault. And so they're going to be pointing fingers left and right because they're going to be in survival mode and because their trauma response is going to respond and they're not self aware enough to realize the only way to get out of this is to do what you just said,
Yeah.
is just to stand by and own it if you did something really, really stupid. And then hopefully you have the other group that said, I didn't do there. There's some actors and actresses that were there and other people of notoriety that started seeing things go a little sideways and said, I'm done with you. Bye bye.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting because I think it's going to go beyond actors and actresses. I think you're going to have politicians in here. Not going to be surprised if somehow the New York City thing gets intermingled in this in some way, shape, or form, whether it just be for looking the other way in some sort of a bribe or people actually being involved with some of those political individuals. But yeah, it's a lot deeper and darker than I think. I
Think
think
about the
even we thought.
scope. The scope. So, as an investigator, what you have to do because you had such resources and such influence, you'd have to investigate every single city and place in the entire world he ever traveled to
Uh huh.
and interview all those people he had contact with in those places. That's what we're talking about resource wise. That's why this is devastating to our criminal justice system for any other cases that are really, really important because it is
Yeah.
sucking massive resources to do just that.
Yeah, it's an endless pit. It is.
I mean, and I'm sorry, one last thing,
Yeah.
Tony. I have been part of cases and known people have done cases that took their entire career.
Mhm.
This is one of those cases that's going to be someone's entire career and not just one person. It's going to be multiple people's cases. That's their entire career. And so that's multiple investigators, multiple attorneys, multiple people that this is their entire careers of this one case that they're doing. That's a lot of resources for one person making a lot of bad choices and everyone's following along.
Yeah, it's astonishing. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.